A win for free speech advocates and a loss for one Bakersfield actress. An appeals court has ruled an anti-Muslim film should not have been taken off of YouTube. It's an everyday discussion here, so our question, how much of the dialogue is the drought dominating in Washington? 26-year-old officer David Nelson died early this morning after crashing during a pursuit. John Velasquez is suspected of hitting and killing Patrick Mendez on Edison Highway early Sunday morning. Velasquez was allegedly drunk and street racing at the time of the crash. New tonight, a review board finds 2 Bakersfield police officers were within policy when they shot and killed a man back in March. A woman accused of murder in a road rage incident appeared in a California court on Tuesday. Crying and shaking, Darla Johnson entered a plea of not guilty. We're going to switch gears now. A new bill to raise the age for smoking in California to 21. Now another step closer to becoming a law. A family in Oregon got a little extra when they sold their home to a pizza shop owner. Free pizza forever. Italian police bust a major mafia drug ring based out of New York City. Across Kern County, actually kind of across America. That's where a team of local men have decided to race. The National Transportation Safety Board says they found the train had no equipment problems prior to its derailment. 26-year-old officer David Nelson died early this morning after crashing during a pursuit. We have photos of Officer Nelson that we want to show you right now. Police say just after 2:30 this morning, he began pursuing a suspect and eventually crashed on Panorama near Mount Vernon. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead just after 3 this morning. He was a 2-year veteran of the department.
Oh, that's right.
Now here's a look at some of the scene. There you see that car, that patrol car right there, and just how mangled it is. As for the suspect, police are searching for that suspect. Detectives are looking for a car that's described as an unlicensed silver Hyundai. Sergeant Joe Grubbs with the police department says the suspect could face charges. Obviously, those are pending an investigation, but it was an emotional scene at that scene of the crash. Let's listen into what Sergeant Grubbs had to say this morning.
It's hard. I mean, it's a hard deal. Haven't dealt with this in a long time. So.
One more quick detail with this. When officers arrived on scene and saw that car there, the patrol car was on fire with Officer Nelson still inside. The officers tried to remove Officer Nelson from the car before the fire spread. Nelson was taken by ambulance to a hospital. He was pronounced dead at 3:05 this morning.
Right, and as you can see, a lot of people all across the entire county giving their condolences to Officer Nelson today. You can do so as well. Just call the number on your screen. That's 852-7021. Again, 852-7021.
Now we have reporter Adam Herbets live downtown at a vigil that was set up for Officer Nelson. Let's go live to Adam right now. Adam, good afternoon.
We're going to throw it back to you at the desk.
Emotions running very high today. Adam, thank you.
And there are several departments from around the entire country that have expressed their condolences to the Bakersfield Police Department via Twitter. They include the NYPD, LAPD, Aurora, Colorado Police, Burbank Police, Las Vegas Metro Police, and many more. Just take a look. You can read there. You see Burbank Police saying prayers for Bakersfield PD enduring the loss of their officer, who's a former cadet with them in Burbank. Hashtag Police Lives Matter. Now, we will continue to have coverage of this. We want to continue to give you the opportunity to read some of these, just, you know, a great show of support from these departments from across the country. We're going to have coverage of this breaking news throughout the show, throughout our broadcast, throughout the day.
And the thing about this, too, the Bakersfield Police Department Twitter, @BakersfieldPD, is responding to a lot of those tweets of support to them, so you can go on their Twitter page and see how they're responding to them as well.
Now, something else that happened just moments ago, you may have even seen the very end of it, President Obama delivering the eulogy for South Carolina State Senator Clemente Pinckney. Pinckney's funeral was held at the arena on the campus of College of Charleston. There you see his body that was brought from the Mother Emanuel Church. Pinckney, who was also a state senator, was one of those 9 people killed in last week's massacre during a Bible study session at the church. More than 5,000 mourners were at today's service. You heard the president speak just moments ago. The accused gunman, 21-year-old Dylan Roof, is charged with 9 counts of murder. Again, we expect to have more on that later today as well. We are going to step aside right now, take a quick commercial break, but one more time we want to go out to downtown Bakersfield where that vigil is being held right now for Officer David Nelson, 26 years old, killed in a crash this morning. We'll be back.
We're taking a live look at downtown Bakersfield right now, where the community is gathered to remember him.
And I don't think we're able to hear what's being said right now, but you know, you can just see by the body language on the people there that came out to show their support for the department, came out to listen to what they had to say. Maybe they knew Officer Nelson, maybe they didn't know Officer Nelson, but still just really a gracious and a emotional show of support there from the Bakersfield community.
And Officer Nelson is a 2-year veteran of the department there, so they continue to remember him, as you can see, remembered in prayer really this morning.
Exactly. Now let's check in with the third member of our team, Mr. Aaron Perlman. Aaron, a somber morning, a somber afternoon, a crazy news day as is. We've already had a BPD officer killed in the line of duty. The president's speaking right now, and now apparently there's a major outage, a major power outage in East Bakersfield. Apparently over 5,000 people are without power. This is apparently south to southeast of Bakersfield. Reports of over 5,000 customers. The cause is unknown. I guess it started right before we went on the air, right before noon, and they expect it to be restored by about 1:45.
And that's tough for today, being triple
With
digits
it being so
right
hot
now.
outside, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll continue, of course, to monitor it for you. You can find the latest on our website, BakersfieldNow.com, and also on our Twitter page at BakersfieldNow. All right, we'll see you. Step aside for a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We want to go back out live to TD Arena in Charleston, where President Obama is giving the eulogy for Clemente Pinckney, who was killed last week in that Charleston church shooting. The President has been speaking for over a half hour now. Let's continue to listen in. We're going to go from one funeral to another somber story right now. BPD is mourning the loss of one of their own for the first time in over 30 years today. This is Officer David Nelson, 26 years old. He was killed during a chase early this morning, just around 2:30. He got into a car accident while he was chasing a suspect. The suspect is still on the loose, folks. And obviously, Officer David Nelson was killed. He was pronounced dead just after 3 o'clock this morning. We will have full coverage on this later today on Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock, Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock, and the very latest as well on BakersfieldNow.com throughout the entire day.
Right, and as you've mentioned, they are still looking for the suspect. He was driving a vehicle described as an unlicensed silver Hyundai. So if you have any information, you're urged to please contact the Bakersfield Police Department.
We're out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Life or death for the Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. We are moments away from finding out the answer to that question. Eyewitness News at 12:30 starts up right now.
Live in high definition from Fox 58 in Bakersfield. This is Eyewitness News at 12:30.
Welcome into Eyewitness News at 12:30. I'm Tom Murphy. And of course, this was after 14 hours of deliberation. Now, they've already convicted him on all 30 counts, and this is now the penalty phase of the death penalty trial. Tsarnaev was convicted last month of those federal charges. 17 of those charges carried the possibility of the death penalty. So that is the biggest question that we're about to get answered as we take a live look outside this courthouse in Boston. Life or death for Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev.
Right.
And we are just hearing right now that he has been sentenced to death. The Associated Press has just reported that. Again, if you are just joining us, Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has been sentenced to death by lethal injection for that 2013 attack at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. You'll remember there were 3 people that were killed. Martin Richard, just 8 years old, a student at a charter school in Boston. Crystal Campbell, 29 years old, of Massachusetts, and Lindsay Liu, a graduate student at Boston University. There were 3 victims. Those victims will obviously be remembered forever, and now Dzhokhar Tsarnaev will get the death penalty. That announcement coming just moments ago, just minutes ago. We are still looking live outside of that courtroom, and we will continue to check in throughout the broadcast and continue to go back out there to Boston. But that's the biggest news right now.
Breaking news, really, across the entire country.
Now, let's go back to Kern County right now. It's a crazy transition after a story that's going to be one of the biggest stories of the entire year, folks. But something that we had, one of the biggest stories really of the month, of the early 2015 at least.
Right.
Rain, thunder, and more rain. Something else that we haven't seen very often in California recently, a flood advisory. Take a look at this video out of Fresno, a heavy thunderstorm. Cars across the area were stranded. City officials say although the intensity of rainfall was more than anticipated, maintenance crews called storm SWAT teams were dispatched across Fresno to locations that were hit by flooding and heavy rainfall. The storm broke rainfall records for the day in about a dozen different places across California.
Not what we expected this time of year.
It was something else. It's amazing how shocking it is at this point when you just, like, I looked outside yesterday and saw somebody walking with an umbrella. And to me, that was something out of outer space.
So the last time
lawmakers are pushing for increased rail safety following Tuesday's deadly Amtrak crash. And today in New York, Senator Chuck Schumer and Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal announced their 4-point rail safety plan outside of New York's Penn Station. The video that you're looking at right now are the tracks where the crash happened as the cleanup continues. Some lawmakers, including House Speaker John Boehner, say speed was the only factor in the derailment. But Schumer also blames a lack of funding and says his plan makes rail safety a top priority. New this hour, the House passed a controversial $612 billion defense bill just this morning. The bill maps out next year's military and national security programs. Republicans wanted to move extra money for defense spending to a special program in order to avoid cuts. Democrats were against the measure, saying that money should be used for other domestic programs. The Senate is considering a similar version of the bill. The president has threatened to veto. Meanwhile, President Obama also paid tribute to fallen police officers today. He was speaking at the 34th Annual National Peace Officers Memorial Service on Capitol Hill. He said law enforcement should be honored and respected for what they do on a daily basis. We now know the names of the 2 people who died in a crash involving an ambulance and a big rig near Fraser Park. Investigators say 50-year-old Christina Fort stole the ambulance Wednesday night and then crashed head-on into a semi driven by a 40-year-old Nelson Martinez from Los Angeles. Witnesses said the ambulance was traveling at 100 miles per hour. Both Fort and Martinez died in that crash. The CHP is investigating. We're going to step aside and take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, long live the King. A blues legend passes in the middle of the night. We remember B.B. King. Welcome back, everyone. We want to remind you about that breaking news that we gave you at the top of the hour at 12:30 as well. A sentence has come down in the Boston Marathon bombing penalty phase. Johar Tsarnaev sentenced to death.
Right, and as you can see, a lot of people out there awaiting this decision as it was. It kind of been, we expected right at the top of that 12 o'clock hour, and about 30 minutes later at the top of the 12:30 show here on KBFX, we got that decision live on the air that Johar Tsarnaev has been sentenced to death by lethal injection. It was almost 2 years and 1 month practically to the day when that bombing happened at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. 3 people were killed, over 240 people were injured, and now a little bit of closure for all of the families, the entire country that was rocked. And we've got a lot of reaction from this all across the country. Attorney General Loretta Lynch released a statement on the Boston Marathon bombing sentence. She said, but the ultimate penalty is a fitting punishment for this horrific crime, and we hope that the completion of this prosecution will bring some measure of closure to the victims and their families. So Tsarnaev now will live in infamy with some of the most notorious terrorists that have tried to attack America, whether it be Osama bin Laden, Timothy McVeigh with the Oklahoma City bombings way back in the 90s, and now, like Timothy McVeigh, Tsarnaev will be sentenced to death.
Maybe the following next week, but for the time being, today's it for rainfall.
And, you know, one of the things that I notice whenever we have rainfall, just be very safe when you're driving, because there are too many accidents that happen, and a lot of them can be avoided. Drive safe, drive slow, drive safe, be smart. Take your time. B.B. King was 89 years old. One of the beautiful things about being a great musician, making great music, is that music is timeless and it will live on forever. Definitely, well said. All right. There are smooth criminals and then there are bad bandits, and this next guy falls into the latter. You know the saying, if at first you don't succeed, well, it wasn't meant for everyone. Watch as he fails twice to steal an ATM from an Australian gas station. First the chain separates, then he's too far away, and finally he just gives up. So maybe that's why he was in a life of crime. He couldn't do anything, and he couldn't even do that well. Hey, one more time, we want to give you the biggest story of the day. It's one of the biggest stories of the entire year. The sentencing has come down in the Boston Marathon bombing suspect. Not the suspect anymore. He's been convicted, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, and now Dzhokhar Tsarnaev will be sentenced to death.
Definitely, and analysts are expecting that this can actually take a number of years. We're expecting a long process of appeals to come about this, so they're anticipating if he is put to death, it actually could take 10+ years at least, possibly.
Of course, all of this started April 15th, 2013, when those 2 bombs went off at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. 3 people were killed, over 240 people were injured. It really shook up the nation. It also inspired the entire Boston Strong movement, and now a little bit of closure for those families affected, for the entire country that has been affected, because the 2 people that were behind that will both be killed.
And as of now, he'll be shipped to a federal prison in Indiana.
We're out of here. We had a great show. We are hoping that you all have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.